Hey guys, so I am finally back. In case you didn't know or don't follow me on social media or on my main channel, I was sick for like a week and then I fell behind on American Horror Story and I just felt very defeated because October is my favorite month of the year, obviously, and the busiest time for me on all three channels. So it was really disheartening that I lost so much time, but I'm making it up for it. You know, we're gonna keep moving along and keep doing the videos. I've been doing a lot of Halloween videos over on my main channel, so if you're into horror things, which you are because you're subscribed to this channel, go check that out if you haven't seen them already. Anyway, I wanted to ask you guys before we get into the Halloween review what you want me to do with American Horror Story, because at this point I'm 3 episodes behind. I've seen them all. I just haven't filmed them, or filmed the reviews rather. So I don't know what you want me to do at this point, whether you want me to do a 3-episode catch up by Wednesday and then I'll just pick back up where I left off and, you know, do weekly reviews again, because this is the last week of October, obviously the last review of October, or the last American Horror Story episode of October. So I feel like I'll be able to get back on track when I'm not doing main channel videos. That's what I'm thinking of, but in that situation I'll have to post that review by Wednesday. It'll probably go up on Wednesday before American Horror Story airs. So let me know if that works for you. Anyway, let's jump into the Halloween review. I really wanted to obviously see this and review this before Halloween because it is the perfect movie to go see on Halloween, which I highly recommend doing because there is a lot of Halloween vibes in this movie. So for me, it's like the perfect Halloween movie to get in the mood and in the spirit of things. Or, you know, most people I feel like celebrate it already for Halloween. So if you don't have anything to do on the day, go see Halloween. I actually saw Halloween on its 40th birthday anniversary unintentionally, but I thought that was pretty cool. So this movie is technically a sequel to the first film, which is the only movie in the Halloween franchise that you need to see before watching this Halloween, this version of Halloween, because I think the whole Halloween franchise, let me just say first off, is a mess. I have not seen many of them. In fact, I've only seen the original Rob Zombie's Halloween and this one. So it gets very, very confusing because a lot of the Halloween movies have plot points that are just independent in those movies and don't, you know, trickle over into other movies. And I think that's why a lot of people are really confused about Laurie Strode. Is she Michael Myers' sister? No, she's not. That's actually something that was created, I think, in the Rob Zombie Halloween, because he escapes and then goes after Laurie being his sister. I don't know. I think it actually was, that storyline was created before that. I forget which Halloween though. Anyway, so it's just like a hot mess. There's a lot of independent storylines, and so I think people get really confused as to what is a sequel to what's a remake, what is it? So let me just say, all you need to see is the first one. If you've seen the original Halloween, you are good to go for Halloween 2018. It actually stars a lot of the original cast from Halloween. We have Jamie Lee Curtis obviously as Laurie Strode, and we have Nick Castle playing Michael Myers. He was the original Michael Myers and now I think has played the most Michaels in the whole franchise. Also, my favorite part isn't just Jamie Lee Curtis returning or Nick Castle returning, it is John Carpenter returns. And not just returns, but he returns to making the music for the movie. He made the soundtrack for the film, which he has not made music for movies since 2001. John Carpenter is one of my favorite horror icons. The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time, so the fact that he came back to do the score on this is, and that's one of the best things about the movie, honestly. As soon as the original title, like main theme started playing in this movie, but it was like a remix, I was like, yes. He obviously did the iconic Halloween main theme that is very recognizable, I think, everywhere in the world. So to see him come back and do kind of a remake of that song, but like modern, it was so good. So I think people think that this storyline, like I said, people get confused that Laurie is Michael's sister, but she is not. He killed his sister when he was 6 years old, and he's been in captivity since the escape in 1978 or whenever the first movie took place. So it's been 40 years since he's been locked up in this institution. And so obviously we know in the trailer he escapes somehow, and obviously he escapes on Halloween or the day before, but like he kills on Halloween, you know, you get it. Anyway, so it makes it seem like he's going after Laurie Strode, but he is not, because Michael is one of the killers who kills at random. He just kills whatever is in front of him, and usually they are alone. Like obviously in the trailer we see him bump into some kids. He doesn't kill those kids because he's in public. At least that's me speculating. I don't know. I just assume that he doesn't kill in front of other people because there's some part of him that knows that's wrong. But generally he just goes after, he just kills at random. There's so many deaths in this movie. There's actually 19 deaths in this film, which is more than almost 4 times the amount in the original film, which is 5. Anyway, let me get back to the whole point that it's not his sister and he's not tracking down Laurie. He kills at random, so he doesn't have like a vendetta against Laurie. He just kills whoever, wherever. And in the original, he escapes from the institution on Halloween and, you know, starts targeting Laurie and her friends, but he does that at random. They just happen to be the ones walking down the sidewalk and he locks on and he's like, I'm gonna kill them. So they're not related in any way, although there are films where they are related, which is really random and highly confusing for people who aren't into this franchise and don't know that. So, okay, back to the plot of the movie. He escapes 40 years later and Laurie has created like this dungeon of a house. It's like barricaded, there's locks everywhere, there's just so much going on. It's like a bunker, post-apocalyptic. Like she is prepared for the apocalypse. And she has a daughter and a granddaughter in this film, which we do see a lot of their storyline, which I really liked. And then we learn that Laurie has actually become agoraphobic and she is pretty unstable and still traumatized from the murders in her past. And she's, you know, paranoid about him escaping again, which has her create this like bunker situation in her house. And then we learn that she raised her daughter like that, and her daughter is still like dealing with her childhood because she was taken from her mom because it was not an environment that you would want to raise a kid in. And obviously we know he escapes and somehow they get together in the same place, which I'll get into in spoilers, and her family's involved this time, and that's basically the brief synopsis of the film. So I will go into spoilers and fun facts and trivia and things like that, but overall I would give it an 8 out of 10. I feel like I definitely had some issues with it, which I will get into further. I really enjoyed watching it in theaters, never having seen the original in theaters, obviously. And of course I'm gonna recommend it. It was really good. I did really enjoy it. It was actually better than I thought it was going to be, but I mean, there's some things I have wrong with it, you know? It had great use of practical effects, and the gore and the deaths were so good. They were varied. We got different kinds of deaths. It was just a fun time. Obviously, if you're sensitive to gore, this is not gonna be your film, but I think you know that going into a movie like Halloween, which is like a traditional classic slasher film, you're gonna get gore and deaths and body parts and things like that. I was actually really happy to see a movie like Halloween and have a classic slasher film come back and do so well in theaters with the general public. This movie had the biggest horror movie opening with a female lead, the biggest movie opening with a female lead over 55, and the biggest opening of any of the Halloween films. So just to get into a few things before we get into like spoilers and stuff, I did have an issue with this plot twist thing that they attempted that didn't have a real purpose. Like it had one major purpose, which I'll get into in spoilers. I'll elaborate in a minute, but they did try to do this plot twist and it just was so short-lived and caught me off guard that I didn't like it. And I understand why it was in the film, but I feel like it was so random and it just threw me off because the only purpose was to get Michael from point A to point B, and it worked in the storyline, but it still felt obvious that that's the only reason why they had that plot twist in there, because it was so short-lived. I thought it was going to be like a new storyline and it was going to like spin off and go its own way and it was going to be like a big twist, but no, it was just to get Michael to places. So because obviously he doesn't target specific people, he's not going after Laurie in this film, but they obviously needed to end up in the same place at the same time to have their, you know, battle. Another thing I really enjoyed about this film is they kept the teen aspect, because that was, you know, the major thing in the first one, the original. It's a teen slasher film, so I'm glad they kept that atmosphere a little bit in this one. We got to see a lot of her granddaughter Allison and her storyline with her friends, and the Halloween dance was really cool. So I'm glad that they maintained a little bit of that in the movie to keep it kind of in the same vein as the original. So John Carpenter claims that this is the last Halloween movie ever. However, they are in contract to do a sequel to this one to make it like a rounded trilogy. And I think with how this movie ended, it could definitely have a really cool twist, spin-off, and I don't know. I feel like the way they ended it, it could go a completely different way, but it could be really cool, which I'll get into more specifically what that was later. Danny McBride said that he knows where they would go with the storyline and hopes that they have a chance of making a sequel. So I really, really hope that they do, because this one did so well. And I think after seeing this one doing so well, I think that they will do at least one more film. But John Carpenter said, I think that this is the last one that we see Michael Myers as the antagonist, as the killer, which is really interesting, and I have my theories, which I'll get into. Okay, so I got a lot of spoilers to go over because I have a lot of thoughts about the movie and the ending, and I need to get into more of my criticisms about it, which I can't do unless I spoil it. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want any spoilers, then stop watching now. So one of my favorite parts about this movie, this one isn't like a huge spoiler, but it kind of is, not really, but one of my favorite parts of this movie is that there were so many like nods to the original and homages to the original, but the roles were reversed between Laurie and Michael, and I thought that was genius. For example, there's, you know, a scene in the house where she is stalking him, like she's trying to track down him, and then, you know, she thinks that he's in the closet, kind of like in the original when she's in the closet and he's stalking her. And then at one point she falls like off the house onto the ground, and then when they look back later, she's gone. Another ode to the original, which that happens exactly in the film, but it's Michael that disappears. Another fun fact that is a spoiler is this is the first time Michael Myers has ever killed a child, which when they showed that scene and that death and it being so like gruesome, just like breaking the kid's neck, I was like, okay. I know this sounds really weird to say, but I enjoy it when movies will do that, because I feel like if you're a real killer, no one's off limits, you know? And so I think it's more like realistic that he would kill that kid. Like he wouldn't just leave it, but they did not kill the baby in one of the scenes, which I was happy about because I didn't think they were gonna go that far. I'm glad that they kept it at just killing the one kid. It sounds weird to talk about and saying that that was a part that I enjoyed, but I just think it's realistic when they do not have limits as far as who and what they kill. So one of my favorite scenes was actually the deaths in the bathroom at the gas station. I don't know what it is. I love a good bathroom kill scene. Or just like a bathroom scene. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. I love the movie Rust Stop for that reason, which that's a horrible, like technically horror or horrible film, but I love it. I have it on DVD. I don't know. There's something really like horrifying about being trapped not only in the little stall but in the bathroom, and like there's one exit, and it's just something so scary about that. So I'm glad they had like an extended kill scene of both the podcasters in the bathroom. And actually I read that it was a reference to Halloween H2O where Claudia is in the bathroom, which I haven't seen that, but I read that that's an ode to that part of H2O. I don't know. A friend of mine actually who had seen it before said that these characters, the podcasters, could have been left out completely, which I understand. Like maybe the movie could have stood without them, but I enjoyed their character and their like plot because I think that they helped move the plot along, and it created a really nice intro back into the Halloween franchise. You know, them going to the institution to like study Michael or to like research Michael more and like confront him. I thought that was a good way to reintroduce Michael back into the world. So the plot twist that I didn't like, we'll get into. If you've seen it, you know already what I'm talking about, but it's when Michael is like laying there shot, I think, and then the doctor cuts or stabs the cop and kills him, and he's like, oh, that's what that feels like. And because he said that, in my head I'm like, okay, so Michael died, which he wouldn't have died just from like a gunshot, but you know, in my head I'm just like, this is a plot twist, here we go. So I assumed that the doctor would be like the new Michael, like he turned evil after killing the cop and he like enjoyed it, and he's just so obsessed with Michael and like saving him. I don't know. But almost right away, the doctor's head gets crushed by Michael. So I was like, oh, I guess that's not the case. And the only reason why they even had that situation is to get, you know, the doctor wanted him to confront Laurie, like Michael to go face to face with Laurie again. So that's why he drove them there. Otherwise, they would never have really gotten there. It just seemed really obvious what they were doing, and it also was a little confusing, and I don't know, I just wasn't into it. I can forgive it because it was so short-lived that it's like, minus that, it was pretty good. So the very, very end of the film, Michael gets shot a couple more times. He ends up in the basement in Laurie's house, right? And she locks him in there with like the bars. You know, she had all this planned out. For some reason, she knew someday he would be trapped in the basement, and so she did the locked bars. I don't know. Or maybe that was to prevent him from going into the basement when she was down there. But then she sets her whole house on fire and walks away. And I have two major issues with that story. Why the whole house? Why do you have to set the whole house on fire? I mean, granted, it's hard to contain a fire when, you know, the basement's on fire. The rest of the house is probably going to catch on fire. But it just seems strange, like she couldn't think of a better way to destroy him, because obviously he needs to be burned to be murdered or killed or whatever, to be defeated. And they make that comment early on in the film, so we know that's like foreshadowing later, oh, he's probably going to be burned at some point, which he has been burned, I think, twice before. But here we are. Again, this movie is only a sequel to the original, has nothing to do with any of the other storylines in any other Halloween movie. The second thing I have an issue with is after all this preparation, after 40 years of paranoia that he's gonna come after you, you don't want to see his body being burned. She just walks away. She sets her whole house on fire. That'll do it, and walks away. But she knows Michael. Like, she knows how sneaky he is and how he could probably escape that somehow because he's Michael Myers. But I think she would want the peace of mind knowing he died, seeing his body burn. And after the credits, you can hear him breathing in his mask, which that could be a hint that he's still alive, but I don't think so, because John Carpenter had said that this was the last movie where he's the antagonist, so I don't know. But if he's still alive, that's her own damn fault, because she did not figure out a better plan to not burn her house to the ground, first of all, and also not to witness him dying, which I would think she would want to do. Also, that was another thing I had a really big issue with, is she's so paranoid about him escaping and coming back to kill her, or she's just scared of the world, right? She's just agoraphobic. She's just traumatized by this whole event that happened to her. But then as soon as she hears Michael escapes, she's out in the world. Like, that's when she gets over her fear and goes outside. When the murderer that killed 5 people around her escapes, and she set up this whole bunker to protect herself and her family if anything like this were to happen again. And it does. He escapes, and then she's out there. She's just walking around, like, looking for him. It just seemed very, like, weird and out of character for her if they built this narrative that she was agoraphobic and, like, scared that he was going to come back for her, or that someone was going to get her, and then he is actually out there in the world and she's walking around with everyone else, not in her bunker. So I think that the very, very end of the movie, the last scene that we see, is very telling, because it could be finished right there, right? It could just end. We see Allison still holding the knife, which I don't know why she would still be holding the knife in the truck. She could have, like, ditched that a long time ago. Allison is the granddaughter, and she had stabbed Michael, that, you know, then he, like, fell down back into the basement. So it shows the camera, like, zoom in on her hand still holding the knife, and that's, like, the last scene. Again, still don't know why she didn't drop it at some point. She's just holding the knife, like, running out of the house to the truck, being like, help us, and then she's still holding it, gets in the truck, still holding it, I don't know. Which I think could be foreshadowing. Now, I might be really weird for, like, thinking this or thinking that this is a theory or anything, but what if she became the killer in the next movie? Like, what if she enjoyed killing Michael, that she becomes a killer in some sense? I don't know whether she's the enemy or the good person who likes to kill bad people, the new Dexter, I don't know. Or it could just obviously end right there. We don't get a sequel and we'll never know, but I'm kind of guessing it now that something is gonna happen with her. Like, she's gonna be in the next movie, either killing or the main actor. I don't know. Anyway, those are kind of all of my thoughts on Halloween. It's a long review, but I had a lot. I got 3 pages on a Word document, single-spaced, of what I wanted to say in this review. So yeah, hopefully it was thorough. Hopefully you get enough of my opinion. Honestly, I still really recommend it. Obviously, I had my issues with it, but do see it on Halloween if you don't know what to do with yourself on Halloween, or just see it in general. I think it's really worth it and worth seeing in the theaters, because I'm sure a lot of us have not seen the original in theaters. Please let me know your thoughts about the movie Halloween if you've seen it, and if you like the franchise, what are your favorite films within the franchise? Leave all your opinions down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.